Welcome to the Militia Gaming Community. I'm Trigger Militia, and I'm back with another Need for Speed Heat video. This time it's all about that sweet EK Type R Civic. Let's go! Alright, before we get into the video, I know a lot of YouTubers spend time asking for subs and likes, but I do things a little bit differently, and I use this time to thank you for simply clicking on my video. I really appreciate every single view, comment, and like. This community has been so positive, it's crazy. Here's to positivity. Also, until the channel grows to a point where I can't, I read every comment and every DM. Hit me up on Instagram if you have any questions or just want to talk gaming. Okay, quickly, if you haven't watched any of my build videos before, the reason I make them is because it takes quite a bit of testing to figure out what the best track, drift, drag, or dirt build is for any given car, especially when you're talking about the engine. There are usually 7 or 8 engines for each car, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the game doesn't allow you to compare the different engine options in a fully built state. So choosing the engine seems a little bit random, even though you could look at the base stats and kind of make an educated guess, but it's not 100%. So in an attempt to save you some in-game money, I've bought every single engine for this Y2K Civic and proceeded to build it with the highest tier parts possible. And then I repeatedly tested each engine on 2 different races and recorded the results to see which one was faster and more well-rounded. Then I tore it down and built it for dirt, and then again for drag, and then again for drift. Let's start with finding the best engine. Just like in the last engine video, I tested each engine with my standard track build, all Ultimate Plus parts, the dual turbo, and the 5x3 pound NOS option. I also use all of the highest tier track parts. As always, consistency and accuracy were definitely my top 2 priorities, so I also ran each race 2 or more times to make sure my driving wasn't affecting the outcome too much. If I had a bad lap, went into the dirt, or hit a barrier, I restarted the race. I continued to do this until I ran 3 clean laps. Again, like the other videos, I only recorded the time if I had a super clean race. Just ignore the crashing in the background footage. Alright, this Civic has 7 different engine options, and one engine in particular was way ahead of the rest, and that was the 471 horsepower 2.9 liter V8. This actually hurts my heart, I'm not even joking. Dropping a V8 motor in this tiny car is just so wrong. The way people used to build these cars back in the day, and maybe still now, I don't know, I'm not part of the car scene currently, but people were dropping in B18 Integra swaps and in some cases K-series motors. Like, it used to go hard for those 4-banger motors and giant turbos that would lag until like 3,000 RPMs. Okay, sorry, I'm just reminiscing a little bit. This was something that I really paid attention to as a teenager. When I first got my license, there were built Civics all over the road. Anyways, the 2.9 liter V8 ran the fastest times on both Arion and Aardvark. At Arion, it ran a 305.4, which is actually quite fast for this car, and 5 full seconds in front of the next fastest engine. And at Aardvark, it ran a 448.9, which again was seconds ahead of the next fastest engine. Let's see how that stacks up against the rest of the field though. It didn't even make the board. 305.4 is the 45th fastest time on Arion, and 448.9 is the 39th fastest time on Aardvark. So if you're taking this car to a race full of RSRs and McLaren F1s, you really don't stand a chance on the track. So let's see what else this Civic is good at. We can straight away rule out drifting because this is a front-wheel drive car, but let's see how it does on the quarter mile. For the drag build, I swapped out the 5x3 pound NOS bottles for the 15 pound bottle. I changed the tires to drag and then swapped in the 5-speed super gearbox. Additionally, in the live tuning, I adjusted both the steering sensitivity and the downforce all the way down to the left, which is the minimum amount of both. And then traction control on, and drift style really doesn't matter, I left it on gas. This is the fastest setup I could find, which runs an 8.63 quarter mile, which is actually very fast. The fastest quarter mile time I've seen in the game is the 63 Beetle with an 8.30. I've heard of some people getting the McLaren F1 below 8.3, but I haven't actually tried to do that myself. The Civic is only running 0.33 seconds behind the Beetle, which means with the right driver in the Civic and the wrong driver in the Beetle, you can definitely win a drag race without NOS. NOS turns the Beetle into a rocket ship and no one can catch it no matter the driver. This Civic is not a bad drag car at all. Let's move on to the dirt. To test for the dirt, I used the fastest engine, the 2.9 liter V8 track build, and then I swapped to the Super Rally suspension, Elite off-road tires, and Super Rally differential. I ran this build through the same two races I tested the Beetle on, the HTV2 and Rumble, and the Civic did surprisingly well. I was able to run a 153.5 on HTV2 and a 315.7 on Rumble. As you can see, this compares very similarly to the Beetle. It's slightly slower on HTV2 and slightly faster on Rumble. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of off-road data to go off of because I've only started testing dirt times in these last two build videos, so as time goes on, we will have more tests with different cars and more data that's more meaningful. For now, the Civic and Beetle are neck and neck for first place. I can, however, comment on how each of these cars handles in the dirt, and I will say I actually prefer the Civic. The front wheel drive of the Civic actually pulls you through the corners, whereas the rear wheel drive of the Beetle allows for more slippage. Ideally, an all-wheel drive car would be best, but between the two, the Civic feels faster through the turns. I find it kind of silly that the Civic works out pretty well as an off-road car because it's anything but that in real life. It represents the street racing community so well with its history and customization, but in-game it performs really well in the dirt. Alright, let's summarize a little and then I'll let you watch something else. Thanks to everyone who's made it this far into the video, I really appreciate it. So the fastest engine for the car is definitely the 2.9 liter V8. It runs way faster than any other engine in all build types, and I would recommend swapping to it as soon as you get the car. It happens to be the most expensive engine for this car, but it'll only cost you $163,000, which is actually quite cheap when you compare it to the other engines for other cars. As far as track racing goes, it's definitely usable, but not the fastest car in the game. It doesn't corner very well because of its front wheel drive. The fastest cars in the game tend to be rear wheel drive or all wheel drive. It doesn't drift at all, again because of its front wheel drive, so don't even bother trying to drift it. And it's quite good in the dirt and on the drag strip. I'd say the best build is actually a drag build. I think with a good launch and the right setup that I've detailed for you here, you can definitely surprise a few cars in the quarter-mile race, particularly if they haven't optimized the cars for drag racing. Most people do not roll around with a drag build, so go have fun with your sleeper Civic. Alright, that's it for this one. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video and maybe you've learned a thing or two. Thanks for watching. Trigger out.